Hey folks, how's it going? Thank you for checking out the video. Now, if this is your first time visiting the channel, or maybe if you've been here before but you haven't done so already, please do subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing. It really does help me out and help me grow my channel. Now, speaking of people that might have been here before, you might notice there's a bit of a change of scenery. I am not in my office. No, I am currently sat in my van at Gloucester Services. So this video is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be more of a vlog style, kind of a video diary, and I'm going to be basically documenting my experience as I go work as a volunteer at SQLBits. So SQLBits, if you're not familiar with it, it is one of, if not the biggest data conference in Europe. Been running for several years now, and this year it is being held at the International Conference Centre in Newport in Wales. So, me sat at Gloucester Services, I actually stayed here overnight, slept in my van. I've got a camper van, so I can sleep in this. And you're probably thinking, oh, that's a cunning plan to break up the journey. So I live up in Lancashire. And Gloucester Services is kind of on the way to Newport, so a cunning way to break up the journey perhaps. Well, no, actually, there's a band I really like, a band called the Gins from Vancouver, and they are on tour this week. And I looked at the tour dates and I was gutted because when they play Manchester, which is where I normally go watch bands, I'm going to be at SQLBits, so I'm going to miss it. But then I looked at the tour itinerary and they played Bristol last night, and Bristol's kind of the right neck of the woods for Newport. So yeah, got to drive down to Bristol, watch one of my favourite bands in a tiny, horrible, sweaty basement, but it was absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed my night. Now, talking about a motorway service station isn't exactly exciting, but Gloucester Services of the M5 is one of the nicest there is. It's run by the same folks that run T-Base Services, if you're familiar with that, and it's got a farm shop and some really lovely scenery. They've even had a documentary made about it. They also allow you to stay over in things like camper vans and caravans with full use of their facilities, including things like showers. It's definitely worth a visit if you get a chance. But yeah, parked up at Gloucester Services, stayed the night. I'm now rested up. I have got caffeinated, and yeah, time to hit the road. Okay, so whilst I'm boring you with some B-roll of me driving, let's talk about helping at SQLBits. If it's something you're interested in doing, you can register your interest on the SQLBits website. I'll put a link to the relevant webpage in the video description. Whilst there is strictly speaking a limit on the number of helpers they'll accept, in reality they don't tend to hit those limits, so there should be plenty of room for more volunteers. I signed up to help for the whole conference, which runs from Wednesday to Saturday. In fact, on top of that, I actually went down a day early on the Tuesday to help with some of the setup. But you don't have to commit to the whole thing. You can volunteer for as many or as few days as you'd like. In return for your help, you get to attend the conference free of charge, which is a saving of up to £1,650 based on this year's prices. Do you still need to pay for your own travel and accommodation though? Helping will take up to 3 or 4 hours of your day, but that still gives you loads of time to take in the rest of the conference. More on that later. Okay, so I'm parked up here at the ICC in Wales. Let's head on in. I arrived at the venue just after lunchtime, and my first job of the day, having collected my own conference name badge, was to sort out all the badges for attendees. The badges had been pre-printed, but not in alphabetical order, so we sorted them all out, so that when delegates arrived they could pick up their badges from the correct counter, and we could make things quick and easy for helpers to locate and hand out the right badge. The next job was to assemble the lecterns for speakers. These were custom branded lecterns, branded for SQLBits and made to match the theme of this year's conference, cartoons. They were made from reinforced cardboard and came in a flat pack kit that needed to be folded and assembled. Now I'm no DIY guru, but whilst these could be a bit fiddly in places, they were still pretty simple to construct. All in, there were 12 lecterns that needed to be built and then distributed throughout the various conference rooms. This is what the finished product looked like. Arriving early at the conference, it's pretty strange to see such a bare expo hall. Early on, this was a bit of a building site, with access restricted to those with hard hats and high vis. Whilst the expo hall was being built, I was helping in the background, moving around various paraphernalia such as bean bags and some seating. I also got to pick up my coveted SQLBits helper t-shirts. The helper team is affectionately known as Team Orange, or the Orange Army, famous for the bright t-shirts that make us easy to spot for attendees. My final helper duty of the day was to be a friendly face at the Tuesday evening welcome drinks. This was for delegates arriving early to pick up their conference pass, network and meet some of the speakers. I was due to host a Birds of a Feather table to discuss analytics beyond dashboards. Spoiler alert, nobody was particularly bothered about discussing the topic, but I did have some good catch-ups with some data friends. So, on to day one of the conference. Kind of confusing, as this is actually day 2 for me. Being on the helper team means an early start, as we have to be at the venue for 7:30 AM for a daily helper briefing. Here's where I stayed for the week, a little Airbnb about 10 minutes from the conference centre, which my friend James Reeves booked as soon as this year's Bits venue was announced. I stayed there with James, who was also volunteering, and Ulrich Harnisch, who had travelled over from Dusseldorf in Germany to be on the helper team. Here's us looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on the first morning. There are quite a few of the helper team who'd travelled internationally to take part. Here's day 1's helper briefing. The briefings are used to explain what's required from helpers each day and to give any updates such as room or agenda changes. It was also there for helpers to ask any questions to the organising team. The conference kicked off with a keynote presentation from Microsoft in the venue auditorium. I wasn't on shift for that first session, so I had a chance to stick my head in and take in some of the presentation. The rest of my first day was spent doing room monitoring for an all-day training session being delivered by Reed Havens and Steve Campbell on how to become a master builder with Power BI. Now, I mentioned already that volunteering takes up to 3 to 4 hours of your day. On paper, being a helper for a full training day is a good 7 or 8 hour commitment, but honestly, there really isn't that much to do. You're there to assist the speakers, so making sure they have enough water or finding help for them if there are any technical problems, and you're there for anything the attendees needed to. Some examples of things that I needed to help with on the day were finding an extra plug socket for the speakers, since this was a jointly delivered training session and they needed 2 laptops, figuring out how to close the blinds when sunlight through the window was causing glare on the screen, putting a request out to the facilities team to adjust the air conditioning when the room got too warm, and giving the speakers a prompt when it was time to break for lunch. Ah yes, speaking of lunch, the event is fully catered. That includes breakfast, though I'm not really a breakfast guy. Normally 2 to 3 different warm food options and a couple of cold food options at lunch. My day 1 lunch was this chicken and chorizo paella. In the afternoon, it was back to room monitoring. You don't have to do the room monitoring by yourself. As much as possible, there are 2 helpers assigned to each room. Here's my partner in crime for the day, Joe Billingham, who works as a consultant at Purple Frog. Whilst in theory this looks like a long day, your duties and responsibilities are actually pretty light. That means you get to participate in the training alongside the other attendees, and in my opinion, you still get the benefits of attending as a paying delegate. So I am here with Reed and Steve, who've been delivering a full-day training session today. How was it for you?
I think it went great. Murphy's Law was almost not in effect at all today, so.
Yeah, very good crowd. Lots of great questions, and even some questions at the end of the day, which was a very long after 5 p.m. So very happy about that.
Yes.
Cool. How would you rate the performance of your room monitor today?
I have like 8.4 out of 10. Yeah.
Reminded me to repeat the question, so I appreciate that with a lovely sign.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I've been coming to SQLBits for 10 years now, but this was my first time volunteering on the helper team. Whilst I was here, I sat down with some of the more experienced helpers to talk about some of the additional roles that volunteers can help take on. I'm here with Bettina, who's one of the volunteers here at the event. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, my name's Bettina. I'm the data product owner at Baringa, which is really the only fabric engineer we have at Baringa, so it's kind of multi-hatted job. So I play with fabric a lot. I used to be a Power BI developer. I'm going to try and get back into that a bit more. Yeah, I've been in data for 30 odd years.
How long have you been coming to SQLBits?
Good question. It feels like a few years, but I think it's probably only 3 or 4. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Can you remember your first one?
Yes, it was at Farnborough. It was the flying one. Really good fun. Got to meet Alexander Arvidsson properly for the first time. I was a proper girl fan.
How long have you volunteered at SQLBits?
This is a good question. This is only my second time. Wow. So we wanted to volunteer as soon as we knew that was possible, for 2 reasons. One, if you're neurodivergent, it really helps to be part of a pre-built club. And wearing the orange shirt means that you're part of a pre-built club. Anyone else wearing an orange shirt, even if you don't know who they are, you can go and talk to them and be a team together. We also, like lots of other people in the data community, are helpers, fixers, doers. And so we wanted to volunteer. And I'm also really passionate about neurospiciness, neurodivergence, and also women with neurospiciness in data. Right. It's really tricky, I think, for women in data and women who are neurospicy anyway in the neurotypical world. I'm quite passionate about that. So I specifically volunteered saying, I'm spicy and I want to help a little bit more. So I was put with the buddies.
Yeah, so just to point out, you've got this wonderful blue vest, which I do not have. I'm a regular orange shirt, but you've got the additional uniform. Explain what is that? What is a SQLBits buddy all about?
SQLBits buddies are typically people who have been coming to SQLBits for a long time and know the speakers and know all the nitty gritty, because it's always slightly different. As a community-run event, and volunteer-run, there are always challenges to overcome. And typically, the Bits Buddies are the guys who've really been around the block several times. However, my husband and I, because we were volunteering as specifically neurospicy, and there aren't that many women in the SQLBits Buddies, there are a few of us, we were put with, I don't know why my husband was put as a buddy. You'll have to ask him. I was put as a buddy because I'm female and identify as neurospicy, and also I've done blue badge volunteering at other conventions such as Discworld convention, so I can spot those people who are struggling. Yep. And support them. Also as a point of contact if somebody needs to have a friendly face that they can make contact with, either because they're neurospicy, or last year, Chris Webb's daughter was helping out, doing some work experience, and she's not a data person and was feeling a bit kind of overwhelmed. with all the data people, data geeks. She's a different kind of geek. She's not a data geek. So my husband was asked to just not shadow her, but help her and just buddy up with her as a buddy. So that's the sort of thing we do, just little extra bits and pieces. We have a saying, certainly within the Bits Buddies, but I think all of us really, the power of orange. Wearing this means I can do this. If I weren't wearing this, I would not be talking to you with a mic in front of me and a camera on. It's that simple. But this, because I know how I struggle and I can see other people struggling, I want to help them. I go into mum mode.
So it's almost like the theme this year is cartoons. I know in previous years there's been a theme's been superheroes. So this is like your superhero costume then, is it? This is kind of like your like super volunteer. Once you get the posture, and you just need to wear your pants on the outside of your trousers, and then the costume will be complete.
I think you're right. I don't own any orange pants, but I shall make that suggestion. Yeah.
Every evening at SQLBits, there's some kind of social event happening, and as a helper, you get to attend these too, with no particular obligation to be working. For Wednesday night, it was sponsor drinks and board games, so some of the event sponsors were giving out some free beers, and tables were set up for people to network and enjoy playing some games together. Not that I'm totally food obsessed, but apparently the only footage I really took of the evening was the food option. Yep, they fed us again, this time a rather tasty chicken burger option. So, on to day 2. And another early start with the 7:30 a.m. helper briefing. Guess if you're not a morning person, maybe being a helper might not be for you. Luckily, caffeine was always close by, with free coffee and tea provided by the conference, plus sponsors Microsoft and AWS also turning up with their own baristas for attendees and of course volunteers to get their coffee fix. I spent my day 2 doing room monitoring. Helpers were asked to cover 3 or 4 sessions a day to support. Although it is on a first come first served basis, they do allow you to choose which talks you want to monitor, so you can choose subjects that are of interest to you. Again, as much as possible, there are 2 helpers assigned to each room. For each room that I helped with, we tended to split the room monitoring duties into 2 tasks. One person would scan attendees into the room. Having attended bits in the past, this was a new thing, but meant that all sessions got an accurate head count, plus attendees also received push notifications, prompting them to give feedback on the talks. We used a Microsoft Teams channel to report back head counts for each room, as well as give a status check to let the organising team know that speakers were present and talks were starting on time. The second task was to be kind of a speaker liaison. Each session was provided with a checklist of the things you needed to cover with the speaker. Here's me going through the checklist of one of the speakers I monitored, Izzy Turner. It meant doing things like checking they have enough water, confirming the length of their talk, these were either 20 minutes or 50 minutes, and providing them with timekeeping prompts, letting them know how long they had left in their allocated time slot. We gave everybody a 10-minute and a 1-minute warning, but they could use extra prompts if they wanted to. Here's me giving those time prompts to one of the speakers, Matthias. You might also have to help speakers if they have any technical difficulties with the equipment. Though don't worry, you're not expected to be an IT guru. There was an AV tech assigned to each room, so really it was just a case of asking them for help. I can't stress enough though, despite having these responsibilities to carry out as a helper, you still have the headspace to participate in the sessions and take in all of the information being shared. Oh, and of course there are breaks through the day for food. Right then, time for another sit down with one of the helper team. Right, so I am here with Kev, who is also on the volunteer team here at SQLBits. Kev, introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Kevin Riley, Kev, as you just said. I am a SQL Server, independent SQL Server consultant based up in the northwest of England, a bit like yourself.
Yep, where are you exactly? So I'm Preston, you're...
I'm Chorley, technically, just outside of Preston.
It's near enough. So, how long have you been coming to SQLBits for?
So my first SQLBits was 2009 in Manchester, and I've done, I think, counted up 16 SQLBits since then.
Wow. Is that all of them?
No.
Which ones did you
no.
miss?
I can't remember. There's a good few, because it used to be twice a year, so there was a good few I've missed.
Fair enough. How long have you been doing the volunteering part of it?
So my first volunteering SQLBits would have been 2013 in Nottingham.
Okay.
I just signed up to be a volunteer.
Was there a particular reason that sort of prompted you to want to get involved?
Kind of twofold in a way. Obviously, the thing about being a volunteer is you get access to the conference for free.
Yep.
So at the time, I didn't have any training budget. There was nothing I could get access to wherever I was looking then. So it was a good way of me being able to get to the conference, because being a volunteer doesn't necessarily distract you from still getting into sessions and learning stuff.
Yeah.
So there was that side of things. Obviously, it was practical to get in that way. But also, I just found it as a great way to give back to the community. I've built my entire career based on stuff I've learned from free content.
Yeah.
Whether that be videos, blogs, articles, whatever, it's all been learned from essentially free content. And it just felt great to be able to do something in the community to give back.
I think a common theme that I'm seeing coming up is the fact that any conference, and there are so many free conferences out there. This is paid for a few days. There is a free day on a Saturday as well. But regardless whether or not it's a paid conference or not, the event still can't happen and still can't go ahead without some element of volunteering. And I'm the same sort of almost. I want to make sure that, given that I've had so much benefit from coming to events like these, but specifically SQLBits as well, that other people are still going to continue to get those opportunities as well.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we kind of touched on it slightly. Like I've been referring to I'm just a bog standard helper. I'm just here to do anything. But you've got a special helper role. So you're described as being a runner.
We are, yes.
So what's special or different, perhaps, about being a runner? How does sort of your day differ from the kind of work that I'm doing?
Okay, so it's a strange title, runner. And we're not special, we're just different.
I don't think I've actually seen you do any running.
There's absolutely no running involved whatsoever. I guess the name kind of evolved, I think, but it came because we're running around is probably where the term runner came from. And the role, I think, started when we were starting to have SQLBits at bigger and bigger venues. So the rooms get more spread out and they're away from sort of like the centralised point of control for the conference. So the people who were on the help desk or trying to run the conference just needed to know when there was problems or if there were problems in rooms. We didn't want the volunteers leaving the rooms and stop helping the speakers and the attendees. So this role was devised to sort of be this messenger, if you like, between things.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of evolved into almost like sometimes described as being like wandering around looking for trouble. We just kind of patrol, if you like. We kind of walk around the venue and help. The idea is really to help the helpers, the room monitors.
Yeah.
You've got a problem in the room, or you've got an issue that you need sorting that you can't sort yourselves. The runners tend to be experienced helpers who've done this a few times, kind of get the gist of what's going on, and will either solve the problems themselves or escalate it up through the right channels. So it's just it gives you a different view on the event, but it's just another way of helping out.
So we were talking about it the other day as well, and I like one of the things that you said in terms of the fact that sometimes as well it's identifying the fact that a helper might think there's a problem and you can take it off their plate, but actually you've got the experience to know that actually that's not a problem. If that doesn't get fixed, it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
And you can focus on, let's divert attention to this and make sure the right things get sorted. And but I guess my first time on the volunteering team, just having that, you're not alone. You're not just left to it and you're responsible for everything. It's like, right, you've got some things to do, but if something happens that's out of the ordinary, that's where you come in.
Yeah, and it can, it can be daunting as a first-time volunteer. You're suddenly given this rundown of things that you need to be checking. You've got a checklist. You've got these briefings to come to. You're getting fed all this information about what's changed from yesterday, what's broken today, what's not going to be, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So, like say, sometimes the room writers or the helpers will focus on an issue that's not really an issue, but we will unburden them of that problem and go, yeah, fine, don't worry about it, we'll take that on and we'll manage that.
Thursday night social was a pub quiz and curry night. Spoiler alert, my team did not win the pub quiz. Friday morning saw another early helper briefing. And of course, more coffee. My day was filled with more room monitoring, which is personally something that I enjoy doing. But there are other helper duties that you can get involved with. For example, if all the rooms have ample monitoring cover, you could put yourself down for a stint on the registration desk, welcoming new attendees and issuing conference badges. Or there was a help desk that needs to be manned, which acts as a point of contact for attendees for any general queries. You could spend time in the community hub, an area in the expo hall set up to be a friendly and welcoming area. A lot of the Bits buddies would spend their time here. Or, if you didn't have anything else to do, you might get asked to help out with any random task that might need an extra pair of hands. At one point, I was asked to help put all of the scanning devices onto charge. Or, how about being asked to randomly assemble a dinosaur-themed mini golf course for the Friday night party? More on the party later. The other thing that I did on the Friday was I did actually speak at the event. I was asked to join a panel on the impact of AI on data professionals. So, if you're someone who likes to get involved with public speaking, you can be both a helper and a speaker at SQLBits too. I know several people such as Anna Wicks, Rita Eskins, and my housemate for the week, James Reeves, who took this double-hatted option. Let's talk about that Friday night party though. Yes, as a helper, you still get to attend. And yes, there's more food and drink. You even get a few free drinks tokens. Attendees are invited to go in a costume based on the year's conference theme. With the theme of cartoons, I of course went as Skeletor. I have a YouTube short up on the channel looking at some of the other fancy dress efforts that were there this year. I'll make sure I stick a link here now. Time for the last day, Saturday, which means the last helper briefing and the last early get-up. Woohoo! There's probably a few sore heads in here from last night's party. Saturday is the community day, which is free of charge for anyone that wants to attend. I did more room monitoring, but I also had one final sit down with one of the helper team. So I am here with Robert French, who is kind of the head volunteer here at the volunteer team with SQLBits. Robert, introduce yourselves to everybody.
Thank you very much. Well, my name is Robert French. I live in sunny Scotland, in sunny Glasgow in particular, and I have been, this year apparently I'm the lead volunteer. That's what they tell me, which is very exciting. What else can I tell you about me? I love Power BI, as I say in my presentation. They try to call me a data engineer. I'm a Power BI nerd. That's what I love doing. I love kind of talking to people, but also producing reports.
So, how long have you been coming to SQLBits? When was your first one?
Oh my goodness. I looked this up in Wikipedia the other day. And when I looked at Wikipedia, it was Telford. 2017 was my first SQLBits. I was working for a consultancy in Paisley, and I just wanted to talk to people. I wanted to meet people that were like me.
So 2017 was your first SQLBits.
Yes.
When was the first time you came to SQLBits as a volunteer?
The first time I came to SQLBits as a volunteer, the story to this, I love telling stories, so I'm going to tell you a story.
You're a great storyteller. So absolutely fine.
Thank you very much. So I went to Telford, and the next year was in Liverpool, 2018. And this always stands out in my mind. I came in, and they didn't let the attendees in until 8 o'clock. And I remember standing in the entrance, there's all these people in orange. I was like, what are they doing? What are these people doing? And they were so nice, they were friendly. They ran these, it looked like to me they were running the sessions, and they were always there. They were always friendly, always nice. And then I found out these were volunteers. I was like, I want to do that. I would love to do that. And I started from there. As I started the data user group, I met Annette, who was the lead volunteer then. And that's when I said, I want to be a volunteer. And I got to be a volunteer in Telford the next year. So I was in orange. I was so excited.
Brilliant.
And I've never stopped.
So let's talk job title feels like the wrong way to put it. So like we all get, I'm not wearing my badge. On our badges, we all get labels to tell us. Mine's labelled as helper.
Yes.
Robert's is labelled as SQLBits committee.
Yes.
And we've kind of been, oh, hang on, Emperor Helper. I didn't spot that. So it says Emperor Helper there.
Oh, wow.
We've sort of referred to you as lead helper. I've kind of called you like chief helper and various sort of grandiose type volunteer type titles. Is there an official title?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. When I was approached to take on this role, I thought it was just lead helper or lead volunteer is how I put it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not any more special than you, Johnny. As far as I'm concerned, I've done it for a couple of years. Speaking to the other volunteers, people are a little reticent about taking on this role. I understand why now. There's a lot of work that you don't see in the background, a lot of things to prepare, which I am more than delighted. I will say this this year, and I'll put this on record. Being the lead volunteer has the downside, lots of hard work. On the upside, I get to lead a team of amazing people. I'm starting to tear up. I'm starting to get emotional because they are amazing. They just do stuff. You just go and do stuff. I say, right, that needs done, and suddenly it's done. And I've just asked. And that is just an immense privilege for me. That makes up for all the hard work, all the challenges, shall we say, in the background that I come here and it just happens.
So what does all that work look like for you then? So obviously for me as a volunteer, I turned up. I'm like, oh, well, I've done a really long stint. I came on Tuesday and I'm going to be here till Saturday. How long have you been planning for SQLBits 2026?
Since I accepted the role at the start of January 2026, and it's been more or less not full on, but certainly it's been something's always been going on. I've either been communicating with people, talking to people. Probably in the last, say, 2 months, it's ramped up in terms of the organisation, making sure that communicating with people, answering questions, making sure that the schedule's correct, so that when these lovely volunteers come along and you go into a session, I've said, right, okay, can you ask you to volunteer for this session? And this year we've added a few extra responsibilities, which has been amazing because people have just stepped up and have made it happen. It's fantastic.
So, have you got so what does that work look like? What does your day look like? Sort of, varied, but generally high level. What does the day as the Emperor volunteer look like?
Sitting around waiting for people to make me coffee. I wish that was so true. What would I typically do? So the first thing I would do is I open up my laptop. I will go into they're currently using a CRM, a contact relation management system. So I will go and check, is there any emails I need to answer? People will email me. So let's give you an example. People email and say, right, I've said I can do Tuesday to Saturday or Wednesday to Saturday. I'm really sorry, something's happened on Saturday. I'm not able to volunteer. I will then make sure I update the records to reflect that. Ensure that if they volunteer for something, take them off of it. Then I will look at what do we need to communicate next. We're going to go. So there's various ways we communicate with people. I'll possibly have to coordinate certain things. There's lots of people in the background. We've got Julia in the background who deals mainly with event coordination.
Yep.
We've got Katie who's responsible largely for the marketing. So I have to communicate with them, chat to Simon, go to meetings. It's great. It's just a great job, a wonderful job.
In your opinion, why are volunteers so important to SQLBits?
I will say what I think and what I feel.
Yep.
And I fundamentally think, and I probably said this in these lovely volunteers are up at 7:30 in the morning, have to listen to me. So at 7:30, the first thing I'm going to say, and I always want to get across to the volunteers, is you are SQLBits. To me, as an attendee, the orange polo shirts were the most visible part of SQLBits. The bit that made me go, they said hello to me. They smiled. They made me feel welcome. That's what SQLBits means to me. But also, by the same token, there is much more. You'll now know yourself from volunteering. There's a lot of background work that just happens.
Yeah.
You say to a volunteer, "Oh, can you move that box?" Yeah, it's done. Can you do this? Yeah, it's done. There's a lot of things that happen just to make the life of an attendee much easier and make it the experience it is. That's why I think volunteers are absolutely the beating heart of SQLBits.
What a lovely chat it was with Robert. My SQLBits was drawing to a close. I had one last session to monitor, and that actually finished early. Some helpers do stay late on the final day to help with teardown, but having been there since Tuesday lunchtime, I decided to take advantage of it being quiet, and I took the opportunity to start my journey home. Honestly, my experience as a helper at SQLBits was fantastic. I like going to data conferences anyway. I like the networking aspect, and I love the learning. And I really don't mind attending them alone either. But being part of the helper team gave an extra sense of purpose, and the camaraderie amongst the team is real. If you're interested in getting involved, you can get in touch with the team at Bits. And as already mentioned, I'll include a link to the relevant webpage for you to register your interest. If you've made it all the way to the end of the video, well, firstly, well done. I hope you found it insightful, and genuinely, thanks for watching. Maybe I'll see you volunteering on the help team at SQLBits next time. I'll see you soon.